mostly the arguments tend to be, well, Islam is true because the Quran is the word of God and it's impossible for a human being to have created this, which is like one of the weakest arguments
ever. You know how easy that is to debunk? I believe it's either Sahih Muslim or Sahih al-Bukhari, but the number is like 402.
Yeah.
Right in there, it says that Umar said, this was one of the companions of the Prophet, said, Allah agreed with me in 3 things. And then he said something, and then Allah sent down a verse, just like what Umar said.
Right.
So the Quran claims if this is not from God, produce something like it. Well, Umar did.
Yeah.
It's in their own hadith.
Yeah.
Umar produced verses, and then Allah sent down something to match it, the exact same thing that Umar said.
Right.
So you throw that at them, and then they have nothing because their own hadith shows them that Umar met the challenge.
Okay, so just to recap this story. So the Hadith is a collection of oral traditions about Muhammad and then his successors.
What they said, their sayings.
Yeah, but these tend to be written 200, 300 years later.
Yeah.
Not terribly reliable.
No.
So in one of them, one of the companions of Muhammad does write something as beautiful as the Quran. So God basically has to play catch up and say, oh yeah, I can do that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, when they say, this is from God, how could you, no one can produce something like it. You could just be like, well, ChatGPT can do it, like obviously. But guess what? Umar did it.
Yeah.
Your own source shows that someone did it. Therefore, this argument is trash.
Yeah.
And that stops them dead in their tracks because they can debate about you having, like an AI do something for you. They can't debate that because that's a hadith they have to accept.
Sheikh Uthman is funny though, because that was like the main miracle that I had seen. Or like presented that the Quran itself is a miracle. Muhammad didn't do any miracles. There's some recorded in the Hadith, but they're way too late to have any historical attestation to them. Mm-hmm. But one that I was surprised that Sheikh Uthman would put on his videos was the claim that Muhammad split the moon.
Yeah.
And just like, I wanted to like debate him on that so bad because the evidence for it is just so legendary and different than what we have for like the resurrection, but I never heard back.
The funny thing is like, they'll say the Gospels were written too late. They're 40 years after Jesus. And then they're like, but no, these Hadith collections written hundreds of years later, they're good to go, guys. You can trust them.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that also contradicts the Quran because the Quran in numerous places, like Surah 29, I believe it's like 50 to 51.
Yeah.
The pagans are coming to Muhammad and goes, why won't his Lord give him a sign? And Allah replies, signs are only with Allah.
Right.
Muhammad's only sent as a warner or as a messenger.
Yes.
Okay, if he's only a messenger, he is not a miracle worker. And that's Allah's response to why he's not doing any miracles. So it seems as though when they started to spread around and they encountered Christians, they started to make up hadith that Muhammad did miracles.
To catch up, yeah.
Yeah, hundreds of years later. But the earliest source, the Quran, doesn't report Muhammad doing miracles. In fact, it strongly suggests, and I mean very strongly, that he's not doing any.
Right. He's not, he doesn't do that. He specifically, when challenged on that, doesn't do it. And herein lies we have the problem that Muhammad then just becomes a prophet, someone who points to God, either to Allah or to previous prophets. Yeah. But one of them he points back to is Jesus, and that gets us to the Islamic dilemma. Mm-hmm. So we're supposed to read the Quran, we're supposed to believe it. Muhammad doesn't do any miracles. Okay, but then what about the prophet before him, the actual prophet, Jesus, that he does miracles and then he rises from the dead? The Quran says to believe in Jesus, but then we know from history, we know from what the New Testament says that Jesus claimed to be God, rose from the dead, which contradicts what the Quran claims, even the claim by the Quran that Jesus was never crucified, hence the dilemma. So is there more that needs to be unpacked? So that's essentially the Islamic dilemma. It would go like this, that if the Quran is true, then Christianity is true, the New Testament is true, and so the Quran is false. Or if the Quran is false, then Islam is false.
Yeah, it's very, very clear the Quran says things like in Surah 568 that, O people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord.
Right.
Surah 241, that you believe in Muhammad because we're confirming your scriptures. Same with Surah 447. I mean, this is all over the place. We went through and counted. We found about 123 verses of the Quran that speak positively of the Jewish and Christian scriptures, like pointing people to them. In fact, like Surah 29 tells Muslims they're to believe in our scriptures. Yeah. It says, say to the people of the book, we believe in what has been revealed to us and what has been revealed to you. Our God and your God is one.
Yeah.
So That's a huge problem because we just go to the Bible and it's like, this contradicts everything the Quran is saying.
Right.
But your Quran is pointing us to it. Therefore, we need to reject the Quran if this is from God, as the Quran claims. It creates a paradox.
Right.
And so, I mean, you bring that up to them and then they have to start making excuses for the Quran. They're like, well, it meant this. It didn't mean that it's confirming your scriptures. It meant it was like partially confirming. So then I go, what about Surah 11:1? It says, these are the verses of the Quran. These verses are well perfected and then fully explained.
And that would be the problem, because I think a Muslim apologist might say, well, of course, yes, the Quran, which is, they'll say, has been perfectly preserved, points back to the Bible, which is imperfectly preserved. And all the parts in it that contradict the Quran happen to be Christian interpolations or legends. It's not the true original parts of the Bible. Is that one way they try to get around the dilemma?
Oh, yeah. But I mean, just think about it. If the Quran is well perfected and perfectly explained, and it's clear, as Surah 12:1 says, they can't get around that because the Quran should say that.
Yeah.
When it says it's confirming our scriptures over and over, I mean, like so many verses.
Right.
Okay. It should explain that because the Quran claims that it's going to do that.
Yeah.
So therefore, when they come along and they say, well, the Quran meant something different. Too bad. You've just accidentally admitted the Quran is not clear. Its verses are not perfected and fully explained. So congratulations. You just debunked Islam again.
Okay, so you don't even have to go the route of saying, well, no, this stuff is historically reliable. You're saying in taking this route, you're going to have to deny what the Quran actually says. You've radically reinterpreted it to try to save the argument.
Absolutely, yeah.
And do you think part of this comes from the fact that the Quran, its early formulation, was probably partially due to Muhammad or his companions just having like an incomplete